This is part two of two, City of North Sioux City.
The National Guard will be starting the levee
flood
controls.
control
I know they
project
have started down in the
June 8th.
lagoons area, and I'm sure they're as they filter through and get their training and rotate through, they'll be coming up this way. Again, as we kind of move from the south to the north, as the threat kind of moves this way, you know, they're on top of that as well. Yeah, there is. We have some things in place to go ahead and take care of that, and that's where the National Guard and the levee patrol will be a very important part of this, so that they'll be monitoring these levees 24 hours a day and be able to react as the situation warrants.
The levees hold as they're designed, what level of water will they allow kind of inside the levee?
Inside the levees, again, similar to what this fella asked, these people know what they're doing. I have a lot of confidence in what they're doing, and if they need to let water out and fill areas to certain levels so that it doesn't damage any property, they'll do what they have to do it. But if the levee has a breach or if there's any kind of a problem with the levee, they're prepared to manage that as well.
Hey, is anybody monitoring the debris going down the river, keeping from building a dam to back water up and going out?
I'm sure they are watching that. But that's a great point, though, with the debris and things that are coming down the river. This is a very dirty river, folks, as we all know. So we want to make sure that all of us stay away from it, take the necessary precautions to not come in contact with any of the river water as it flows by. But I'm sure they are monitoring that as well. And I think the thing, really the bridges that would be along Missouri, they're watching. And the thing with the Sioux River, it's not flowing downstream, it's kind of backing up. So the debris will have a little bit harder time backing up as opposed to flowing down.
I've seen somebody's big deck going down the river yesterday.
The incident commander in charge of our area said he has seen some refrigerators float by, so yeah, there's going to be all kinds of things. Are there any other questions? Yes? Don't know. I wish we did, but unfortunately when they're talking once in 500-year flood events, there's so many variables that come into play and so many unknowns that, everyone working together is trying to do, from the Corps of Engineers on down, they're really trying as hard as they can to try to get this thing predicted. It's very difficult. It's kind of a moving target at times. Yes, Jim?
How wide are the levees? Are they all constructed of wood or sand?
Greg, you want to answer that? The question was, how wide are the levees and what are they constructed of?
The Hoffmans essentially had a levee that existed from their high bank to the Adams Nature Area boundary. That was at about 1100. It had two, which appeared to have been constructed with adjoining material. It was particularly back clay, gumbo, as we commonly call it. It had two openings that were cut through it for, we presume, ag purposes. So what the city did was fill those two holes with dirt from adjoining property, gumbo, and then raised it 2 feet for that 2-foot protection that the Corps has been encouraging everyone to include in their work. So that brought us up to 1102. We have an 8-foot top on the dike because the guard and some management people wanted to be able to control the levee through this event, and if they or whoever might be doing the control, they wanted the levee to be controllable so we could find any leaks or seepage that might be occurring. And we have 3-to-1 side slopes on the levee, and at least 3-to-1. And the Corps is typical of the 3-to-1 on the water side and 2-to-1 on the dry side, so we're a little wider than what the county they normally do. So we have a good wide levees on a narrow piece of earthen structure there.
Okay. Is the lake water safe?
I don't know. I would presume it is because at this point in time it's just groundwater. There's no flood water flowing facility is.
Any other questions for either city engineer or anyone from the city? Yes.
I don't know, I was, do you know what the target level, the depth level for Gavin's Point Dam is? You know, what kind of a level depth do they anticipate that they would like to have at that dam?
Do you have any knowledge of that? I think that if I understood your question correctly, what level would they like Gavin's Point Dam to be at? I'm assuming on the rivers or on the lake side,
On the lakes, yeah.
as far as,
You know, it's been like 1206 or something like that.
I don't remember the number specifically. It's on their website if you go to the Reservoir Control Center. But if you look back through the Reservoir Control Center website and look at all the structures up the river, they're all passing 100. They're all projected to pass 150,000 sea level. So this is a moving a slug of water at that rate through the entire reservoir system
Right, yeah.
to get it out of the Montana snow melt area. Does that answer your question?
No?
The short answer is I don't know the maximum pool elevation of Gavin's Point, but I'm
Well, I
assuming
think
that's
it's been like running like between 1206 and 1207 lately. And I just wondered if they had, you know, what that target that they're looking at down the road is.
You get much outside the city limits, and I don't have any information.
Yeah, but you guys got Corps of Engineers.
yes, ma'am.
I'm on the high part of Lake Shore, and my bank, Greg knows, I'm on the high shore at 321 Lake Shore, but my bank, I don't have a walkout basement. Mine is just vegetation mostly, and then rock along the base. How far will that lake come up to at the worst case scenario?
I haven't surveyed the lake elevation, but with my previous comments, I'm using an elevation that I surveyed last weekend. It was around 1090 at the lake, the water level. So worst case scenario with 2 foot of protection, the lake would come up 12 feet.
And so what, now, I don't know how to figure this, but when you go on Google Earth, it's supposed to be the lake side as well as the street side of my property would be at 1112, if that's right, but I feel like I'm lower on the lake side. So I don't know how to calculate that. How close would it be to the top of my bank?
I just offered that Google Earth sometimes was fairly close and oftentimes not very close.
Not very close?
So I wouldn't rely on Google Earth. If you want to call me, I can tell you the street elevation out in front of your house
Okay.
and let you know what that is.
Okay.
If we need here again, can we get an additional microphone or have all questions repeated? Because I think we're having trouble here today.
And I apologize. I'll take blame for that. That's my fault. I made the announcement once, and then I kind of let it slide by when people were just hollering. So I apologize. That's my fault. Are there any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
How confident are you in the sewer system this time to keep up with the groundwater?
Well, right now, everything is, the question was, how confident are we regarding the sanitary system that goes through the city? Right now, things are flowing as they should, and we're monitoring that very closely, and we're prepared to do whatever we need to do to keep things flowing at the normal rate. So we'll, at the appropriate time, and the reason that if you drive around and see the storm drains and some of the other water intake areas haven't been plugged, or a lift station hasn't been sandbagged, there's a reason for that. If it rains, that water has to go somewhere. So we want to keep it open, and the city is ready to act when the conditions warrant. We'll take care of that.
Don, I have a question, or for whoever. There's been a lot of talk about the roads getting beat up from all the heavy truck traffic and sandbagging efforts. Is there any kind of look at repairing roads at any time? Because a few of the roads, especially when out here in front of school and it's a service road, we've seen a high amount of traffic and heavy loads that potholes are starting to show up. There's some concern if that's going to be a problem here down the road we're going to deal with.
The question is concerning the condition of the roads as they are. We've all noticed what the truck traffic has done to them. Believe me, Coach, the people that are in the decision-making process are very well of our concerns regarding the roads, and I'm sure there'll probably be some help down the line, although I can't guarantee that. But I just want to assure you that we as a city are going to do everything we can and fight for every dollar that this is costing us, that we're going to try to do everything we can to get what we deserve. So I'll just assure you of that. Yes?
I'd like to know what the elevation of the Sweetwater and the effluent pipes are, and if they're covered by groundwater, what impact will that have on whether the water is safe to use?
I think the question was, what was the elevation at the Sweetwater? And the second part of the question was, if there's water standing in that vicinity, is the water safe to use?
Yeah, because the sewage pipes can be impacted too, right?
They can be in certain circumstances. I don't know off the top of my head the elevation of Sweetwater. I believe that I won't venture guess. If you're protected by the levee, and if water comes up against the face of the levee, there aren't any sanitary sewer lines adjacent to the levee by the Sweetwater. So water standing adjacent to the levee by the Sweetwater won't impact the sanitary sewer, and it won't impact the drinking water, the potable water either. The plan, as I understand it, is to pump water that accumulates against the levee, over the levee and back into the river. And there'll be some seepage on the backside of the levee time to time. Rainfall events will create additional water against the levee. And I might point out, even if that sandbag your property, take a good look at what's going to happen in the event of a rainstorm, and what the water might do in terms of accumulating behind your sandbag walls. It doesn't have to wait it out, just look at your own property for that issue.
Go ahead.
FEMA's designated Dakota Dunes as a flood area. Have they designated North Sioux or McCook Lake as a flood zone yet?
I'll try to answer your question best I can. The question was, is this area a flood area? And my remembrance of the inundation maps that the Corps produced to allow everybody to kind of evaluate where they were at was that only a portion of Suncoast was in the flood area. Essentially from the Isaac Walton Clubhouse north and the homes that are in the low bank there on Suncoast. That doesn't apply to walkout basements, of course. If you have a walkout basement that's at that elevation, then you would have a different situation. But from a surface flooding standpoint, that was the only area map in the city that was for inundation.
Any other questions? Yes.
I don't have so much question as a comment. And I heard that gentleman that was talking to you earlier, and I hear the same fear that we all have.
For its residents and as a city, I think it's going to be very important from this point forward that we all kind of stick together as families and friends, because you know how things go. Tensions are going to rise, and there are going to be instances where you might have disagreements. But it's so important that families stick together, neighbors stick together on this thing, because like I said last week, we're all in it together, and we as a city are going to do everything in our power to keep that water from bothering us. And I tell you what, if we're going to go down, we're going to go down swinging. So let's stick together on this whole thing, work together as families, and we're preparing for the worst, hoping for the best. But I think we are so much farther ahead right now than what we were last week, based on the limited information that we had at that time, and how quickly and rapidly things changed for us as a community and a city here, you know, I think we're well on our way to trying to get this thing taken care of. Time will tell, but let's stick together on this, folks. Thank you.